The question is, do I have to code? Now, we're not sure if that was meant to be a troll question, but I guess we're going to answer from the perspective of, do we need to have coding as a skill to be in the industry? So if you think about, software as a skill, in the digital economy, every job, even if you're not a developer, every job in the digital economy is going to have some software component. And you can see this kind of with, around your home, even like, physical analog hardware, even just like your light bulb, it's increasingly powered by software, right? But that doesn't mean necessarily that, you personally need to be the one writing the software. So if we look at a bigger picture, the astronaut that's going on the new SpaceX Falcon rocket, he's not going to know, what makes the rocket engine. He's not going to necessarily be the one, knowing the computer system that runs, all the automated, parachutes and all the other things, right? But you can bet, even as in his role as the one sitting on the capsule, you can bet that he understands, enough to troubleshoot, the rocket when things don't go smoothly, because, when it's a system like a rocket, things are going to be happening very quickly. So yeah, he needs to understand the system to a point. Even when things go wrong, he can troubleshoot the software. For other jobs, like, let's take filmmaking, for example, increasingly a lot of jobs in the film industry are also driven by software, right? A lot of it, even if you're shooting a live action film like Mandalorian, or other or even a more like computer animated feature film from Pixar. A lot of the stuff, even if you're doing the 3D modeling, you're doing the rotoscoping, all those things touches software to some degree, even if you're not doing the direct programming of the the rendering system, or the you're not the one responsible for making the software to do the 3D modeling. So the question now comes back to this: where do you see yourself in your career? So how would coding help me create value and solve problems that you want to solve, right? So with coding, you can see this trend in the world with online learning platforms like Lynda, Khan Academy, and then also more blended options with boot camps like Red Academy, Launch Academy, Code Core. There's a whole market of resources, and also companies that they create opportunities for people to gain coding skills without necessarily taking coding, and that's because there's a market and there's people willing to pay to get these kind of skill sets, even if they're not going to become full-time coders, right? So as the generation, you guys as the generation of being digital native, where does coding fit into that? Where in this world where you guys will be growing up in, the digital literacy is kind of the baseline. It's not like, oh, this is a special skill you have, because everybody's going to have it. So where do you see coding fit into that kind of tool chest that you're going to be trying to kind of earn or trying to learn? And maybe not even to say like everyone needs to be a coder, right? So when you as you're going into university or deciding on your career, there's this whole spectrum of completely unfamiliar with the basics of coding to becoming like a full-time programmer. So that spectrum, it's not really one or the other, right? It's where do you see the value of this coding in your career? And maybe more importantly, even if you're not doing coding directly, there's always the problem-solving skills that the coding kind of rigor tries to get across, and then communicating with your coworkers who are the coders, even if you have some knowledge in Java, HTML, CSS, etc., to be able to communicate with the people that you are working with that are actually going to be the producing the code. That's gonna give you a leg up and allow you to collaborate deeper with your team members, right? And in these kind of mini projects, maybe you can see how getting a perspective of the different kind of disciplines. So, the devs, being able to talk to the designers more effectively, and the designers knowing, like what designs that the devs have time to make. Those are pretty key skills that kind of cross the disciplines. So, as you're going through Game of Apps, try to think about how coding, even if you're not directly doing the code, will teach you to troubleshoot, to think, to work through your problems, and how that affects your communication and also collaboration between different team members.
It all comes down to your attitude. I think one of the things that we want you to learn in Game of Apps is not just the skills that we're teaching you, but the mindset, right? The mindset of always wanting to learn, always being curious, always interested. Hey, how does this work? How does that work? We don't expect you to be an expert in everything. Like, none of us can be experts in everything. You can be an expert in whatever field you are in, but still be curious. I'm not an expert in this, but how does that work, right? And so you just learn, so that's the mindset. And I think those types of people in future careers, those are the ones who are going to do well. Not the ones who say, okay, I'm just going to do the bare minimum of what I need to do to get by. You're not going to go far with that attitude, right? But the attitude, okay, I'm an expert in this. I don't know much about, healthcare or medicine, for example, right? I don't know anything about that, but I'm still interested when I see an article about, talking about this or that, or about, how the COVID-19 virus works. I still read it because I'm curious, right? So that's the kind of mindset that I think you need to have in the future.
Let's say you're a designer and you don't code, you don't want to code, but if you know a little bit and you can talk to the developers just a little bit better than the next designer, then next company is going to hire, they're going to hire you because you just have that extra edge, right? And same with the developer who has a little bit of eye for design. Their code might be the same as the next developer, but if they have that eye for design, it just pushes that much better as a better candidate.
Question from Madeline: do you have to do math to do the development? It kind of depends. It depends where you do the development. If you're doing more algorithm-related work or more research-related work, I would say yes, just because a lot of research and kind of things relate to math. If you do more machine learning vision type of work, you might encounter more math. But if you're doing more, I guess more front end or even back end related work, you might. I mean, math is still important. Don't get me wrong, but day to day you might not encounter it as much as if you were doing more research based or algorithm related work.